Hey, what's up, everybody? I wanted to make a talk today. I've been having this on my mind lately. It's obvious for most people, maybe not so obvious for others, but I wanted to talk about technology and what's coming. I started to touch on this in another video, but there's some technology. You know, I remember the days of I'm a Generation Xer, and they say those are the people, we're in between the baby boomers and the millennials. So the baby boomers, they grew up with like no technology, right? Like the joke is when you go to mom's house or grandma's or something, they're always like handing you their phone and saying, how can I do this? How can I do that? How can I even send a text, right? Because they grew up in, you know, um, the days of landlines and voicemails. I remember growing up landline and voicemail. You used to have to wait to get home to find out who was trying to reach you. There was no cell phones, you know. Even black and white TV. When I tell that to some millennials today, they're like, "Oh, really? Yeah, black and white TV. We didn't have this color or high def or anything like that." Um, then I remember pagers, beepers. They came out, and how technology is really moving along. And I think Generation X is we're the smallest. We're the ones with the most like single people, no kids. We're the smallest group. There's the largest, the baby boomers, millennials, and then Generation X. Us in our 40s and stuff. We're the smallest group, and yeah, the smallest group. Excuse me. And so we're like in between. Like it started to really affect us. The baby boomers, they're already retired. They just don't know technology. I've always said if you want to make money, a good business would be teaching baby boomers technology, helping them out. Um, then there's us in the middle who we've seen like the good old pen and paper and the beginning of all these new technologies. We're kind of like the guinea pigs to push forward technology. We're the guinea pigs. If you have a job, no matter what industry you're in, you're most likely seeing technology starting to change the way things are done, and it's thrown upon you. And technology's cool. It's very glitchy at first. Um, you know, when they introduce a new technology, you have to do it the old-fashioned way, the paper way, and the new way, probably for a while before it transitions over. So we are the guinea pigs. We've seen both ends of the spectrum. We've been there with no technology, like I said, and now the beginnings of technology. And some examples of this are like one day I went to the doctor and I signed in with a pen on a piece of paper. Just a couple of weeks later, I went back and they had a hand scan and they had a camera that would take a photo of you. You know, that is to the lady at the counter told me to prevent fraud. All right, to prevent fraud. Or is it sometimes we hear Big Brother tracking everything? Here's another example, the driving industry. Um, Truckers, commercial drivers, things like that, they used to have to do a manual log of their activities. Now they do an e-log. An e-log of the activities. What's the purpose of that? Besides these companies having big money invested, that is to collect data for autonomous vehicles, I believe, to collect data. Remember, when these companies, they usually have a long-term vision. It could be a decade or two down the line, but technology moves exponentially, which means fast. So you can see it in half a decade. I predict we're going to see autonomous vehicles in some fashion in about half a decade. Others say a decade or two. But that e-logging thing was done to gather data so that way, for the autonomous industry that's coming, because they can save a lot of money down the road by not having a person, because then they don't have to pay health insurance, um, no like 401k or anything like that. So it's a big profit booster, and it's coming autonomous. And the retail industry, that's another example. Um, Amazon is just kind of taken over now. If these businesses don't adapt, you know, if these businesses don't adapt and go online, like the big runner-ups who are still so far behind, Walmart, Target, they don't adapt, Amazon's going to run away with it. Amazon, as you may know, is trying to get their hands in on everything. So technology is here. It's cool. I hope I'm around long enough to see it because it's kind of interesting. It's going to eradicate a lot of jobs or change them in some fashion. That's why it's more important than ever these days to have a side hustle, because gone is the days. I keep having, I told someone the other day, I was having a conversation about retirement, and I believe in mini retirements throughout instead of one big retirement in the end because it's a very risky proposition and it may not occur. Um, I said, I may want to switch jobs. I may not want to do what I'm doing anymore. And they go, wait a minute. Um, don't you want to retire? You've been there for a while. They think if you've been at your job half a decade or more, you've been there for a while. Why don't you just stay there and retire? And I already saw their mentality of back in the day. And that's something Generation Xers are still kind of hung up on. We're still holding down jobs. I'm not saying holding down a job is wrong, but the old story was hold a job 4 or 5 decades, buy a house, sip some whiskey or wine. Your house value will go up and you'll have a retirement and you'll be all right. That's the old story. Because of technology, that story no longer exists for the most part. So it's even more important now to have a second or a side hustle. A second gig, to be honest, mathematically, it doesn't work. Um, when taxes are all said and done, Uncle Sam loves you. Second gig doesn't work. It has to be something passive on the side that you're not actively doing. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with having a second gig, third gig. That's a very popular, but that's a very popular mindset amongst people. But when you do the math, you're better off instead of having a second gig. You know what you're better off doing? You're better off getting a membership at Costco or something like that and buying in bulk things that you use a lot. Let's say you use incense a lot. You buy a case of, incense and you save money over time. Let's say you imbibe a lot and you like wine. Instead of buying a bottle at a time, you buy a case, you store it. If you have to, you get the refrigerator to keep it at the perfect temperature, whatever. And you save money like that in the long run. Things that you use a lot that you can buy in bulk, that will get you ahead more than working a second or third job. Um, but anyway, technology is steering us in a way where, even if you get wealthy now, cryptocurrency, if that kicks off and you're invested in that, what I see as really, really early technology, web 2.0 or 3.0, by the time you become a millionaire and all that, by then with inflation and stuff like that, it's still not going to be worth nothing because things are going to get so expensive. Will we ever see a trillionaire in this country? Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, technology is advancing. I know a lot of you see it. Some people, I think, see it. Um, um, I don't know if they see the enormity of it, the enormousness of it. I don't know if enormity is a word, but the enormousness of it, that this jobs, they're already testing out basic universal income in other countries, meaning, there's going to be no work for some people in some fields. You're going to be stuck. Think of the autonomous driving field, how many drivers it could displace. And I think we're going to see it. Some people say a couple of decades. I say sooner because technology moves so fast, but it's coming. It's an interesting world. It's a little scary, if your industry is about to be eliminated, disrupted, or replaced. But um, I can't think of any other examples right now, but what do you guys think? What trends do you see? Technology, I mean, will you be marrying a robot one day? We don't know, right? I mean, like I said, I'd like to see it. I think technology is cool. Um, right now, I'm watching Fox Business Network, and all they talk about is these tech stocks, and they might be in a bubble, they might be overvalued, but tech is the thing at the moment. I'm not saying there won't be another crash, but it's just interesting how the world is all about technology, and I didn't even grow up with this, being able to talk to people that I don't know and spread a message of value. So it's helpful in a lot of ways. People live on their devices, you know. Those are just a few thoughts on technology and where it's heading. And are you being adaptable? Are you still living, especially if you're a Generation Xer or a baby boomer who may be still in the workforce? Are you still living with the story of stay at your job for 5 decades, um, put money in your 401, maybe get into a house, sip some wine or sip something, the value goes up and you'll be good? Or do you see technology replacing and disrupting things, and are you adapting? Anyway, just a few thoughts, just an interesting conversation that can go further than, well, things are just changing. There's nothing we could do about it. Just go with the flow. Is there something we can do about it? And even just being aware of it, does that help? Anyway, just a little talk on technology in the future. Until next time, have a good one, folks. And anytime I think of something of value, I'm going to throw it on here. Um, I just want to say one thing. A lot of things are common sense, but common sense is no longer common in this new technology driven world. Common sense is no longer common. So I see it as good reminders to myself, and it's not an insult to anyone's intelligence. It's a good reminder. If I say something and you may think, oh, that's common sense. Some people either forget it or really don't know. So anyway, how are you adapting to technology? Leave some comments in there. I would like to hear how you guys are adopting to technology. All right. Until next time, that was just a little thought I've been wanting to say about technology. Anyway, all right. This is Rafi West once again. Take care, everybody. Peace.